with your name on it.
You have a cup with my name on it?
I have a cup with your name on it.
All right, well, let's come in and have some coffee.
Do come in.
And I also, if you don't mind, I'm going to close the door, let all the heat out. If you don't mind, I just want to snoop around and look at what, how you live. Because, artists are usually a little bit odd and eclectic, and they have some specific ways of life that are sometimes different than the rest of us. But I'm looking here. This
is my house, full of my stuff: books, paintings, sculpture, old rugs, old furniture.
Look at this; it's beautiful.
Couch I bought out North Ridgeville or something the other day for $100 on Facebook. I recommend Facebook for all your furniture shopping.
Really, on Facebook you furniture shop? Yeah. What do you do? Say I'm looking for a couch, and someone says I have one.
Yeah, basically there's a whole there's a little home symbol, and you go to it, and there's all kinds of shit.
I love it, love it.
Great.
Wow, look at this art in here though. This from. Now this looks like it's from Turkey.
It's a kilim, I think.
Yeah.
A fragment of a kilim, or just a little one somewhere.
Wow.
It's not a very old one.
Boy, this is unbelievable. What an array of stuff you have in here.
Just debris, yeah.
Debris.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me. I once had
cultured debris.
There was once a guy working on my roof. In a house many years ago, and he said he was almost done. He has to get rid of the debris, and I looked at him a little puzzled. I said, "Debris," and he said, "Yeah, the debris. I got to get rid of all the debris."
Yes, those Brits have their own version of the language.
Right, yeah. but so what was really funny is I had an analysis of it. He never actually heard anyone say the word, but he did read.
It is an accepted pronunciation.
Is it debris?
In Great Britain, yes.
Really, debris? Really? Right. I said it would be. Is that French? The debris.
Debris. You keep it in the laboratory.
Interesting. So that is acceptable, huh? Wow. I'll have to use it that way and argue with people.
As the case may be.
I love it. So you can use the word debris for debris.
It's acceptable at least on the other side of the Atlantic. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that is interesting as hell. I'm going to start using it that way so I can get corrected, and then I can counter-correct.
Then you can just launch into some very nice sound.
Right, what I need is about 10 more verbose words to describe why it's an accepted pronunciation.
Right.
Yeah.
So the debris here includes paintings mainly.
I want to look at some of these paintings. This looks like your work, and that looks like you.
I did a few years ago. Me as a child in Australia. So
can you imagine? I recognize that you. I mean, you're probably about 10 years older or 12.
That's like I was 3, and the
3.
The painting itself is about 10 years old. Yeah.
Right. You were 10 years ago. You were 3 years old. That's interesting. That's
right.
Yeah.
That's I haven't aged well, but I've learned a lot.
Right. That's great. Look at that beautiful lamp. Whoa. I think I'll just take that home with me, along with some of these paintings.
It's a gift from a friend, and that was a gift from a friend too, and it's one of my prized possessions. It's a painting by Amy Casey, an early one.
Amy Casey,
dear friend Amy.
So this is like one of her earlier works. It looks like, because I see the beginning of her houses.
2001. And it was part of a show at the Dead Horse Gallery.
I remember that gallery.
2002.
Yeah, Kim Scholl.
Kim Scholl was kind enough to bestow this painting on me at one point.
Wow.
And I've treasured it ever since.
That's incredible. Look at these little sconces.
She wasn't painting little houses at the time, and so this was a unique
work. The beginnings of how it evolved into her stacked house paintings.
Sort of root paintings, I think.
I see. Oh, you read, huh?
And got your art there, your art books. Just in case you
Lucian
need to
Freud,
look
I
something.
see.
These days you can go online and find all this crap, but I like books all the same.
It's interesting. You know what? The first 2 books I glanced at, I see a Lucian Freud and a Francis Bacon. And you know what's really funny? I never thought about it, but looking at your work, I could see that you have had influences from both of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Although I really had progressed pretty far into my mature phase by the time I discovered Lucian Freud. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
But the School of London in general had, through Francis Bacon and Frank Auerbach had already influenced me. So I just wasn't familiar with his work that was contemporary with me in the 80s.
Lucian Freud, I always loved his composition.
I think we have the same birthday or close to it.
Really?
Not year, but
Yeah.
day of the month. So,
You're much younger. I know. You're only, what we said, 13
I
now.
love him, absolutely. Yeah.
He has great composition in his paintings. I always thought.
Wonderful. And just, he...
You know the Jenny Saville?
Love her as well as Savile, I think.
Saville? That's how you say it.
Yeah.
I thought it was Debris or Debris, but
Yeah, right. Those in the damn English.
Saville, Saville.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but anyway, so she's very influenced by Lucian Freud. Can you see that?
Is that right?
Yeah, can you see it? In fact, she even has stated it that she is. Yeah.
No, I'm not.
When you go
surprised.
back and look at her work again, you'll go, oh yeah, I could see that.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then Francis Bacon, he has that sort of the smears and the blurry and the...
Right. There was, but all of it was figurative work rather than the sort of abstraction that American expressionist painters tended to do. So it's the fact that they were doing something unique in figuration that influenced me more than the work itself.
Right. Are there any others that you feel that you're influenced by? That your work that turned you on, that you went,
Well, there are a number of German artists who contemporary, like Richter, Gerhard Richter, and others certainly.
Richter does these like contrast, total abstraction and streaks with total realism,
Right.
and yet you can tell they're the same artist.
He's a remarkable guy, and the paintings from the late 60s and early 70s and into the 80s were often black and white studies of photographs that had this feeling of motion and time worked into them.
Right.
That I loved, still do.
Huh. Well,
I'm more influenced by things probably by late 19th century painters early in my career.
uh-huh.
And I also was very interested in people like de Kooning and.
Yeah, yeah, the energy in de Kooning.
Yeah.
There, I see a painting leaning on your dresser down here.
But anybody who's tried to do something with the human figure that isn't just straight depiction, but has to do with emotion and psychological content has always fascinated me.
Now, you should be running a gallery, because look at the way you display your work. Look at that. That's an interesting positioning. Hiding it behind the coffee table.
I wonder why I'm hiding that.
Maybe that's what we weren't supposed to look at. How about that? We have this one here. This is interesting. Tell me about this painting. Yeah.
A couple of years ago, but it's recent.
I love that.
Just a little, yeah. And then there's other people's. This is General Maid's.
Oh yeah, this one here, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And above that is things by my ex-wife, Lauren Heiler, who is just absolutely amazing. Those were from the early 90s.
Wow, those are. I can see that is influenced with from your painting a little bit.
They definitely informed what I was doing at that time, especially with the tar and the rest of it. They were kind of, so I'd say they influenced me.
Yeah. I once saw. Speaking of cool collaborations of shows, or I should say, good curating. Dana Depew once, I think he curated a show with you and Kasumi.
He did. That was a great show.
That's
a Kasumi out there.
There we go. Look at that.
One of her early drawings.
That show was so. When I went in there, I went, "Wow, what a great pairing." It's like.
Yeah, no, I love Kasumi, and boy, I was.
What she did film wise with your paintings it was like such a nice.
And again, somebody who's doing something with a human figure that's very different from
but it was just really took kudos to Dana, who we interviewed earlier doing this. Oh, here's some more paintings leaning here. Cat, look at that. What great color and compositions.
Cats who disappeared off into the woods across the street.
You have such a great sense of color. This gold and this pink and the whites and these. It's.
Yeah, well, you just slap it on, and if it works, there you go.
That's just slap it on, huh?
You keep it.
You keep it, and if it doesn't work, you slap something over it.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
As an artist yourself, you know that.
Those are just great. That's beautiful. I love that painting.
Here's an old Anna Arnold from the late 80s.
Wow.
Self-portrait with done on a photograph, so kind of an unusual thing.
Wow.
Just a little piece of it.
Interesting. Look at that.
Ah.
Only $5?
Wow.
Wow.
Sad, huh?
Yeah. Well, at least she's come a long way since then, huh?
Well, you bet. She was doing well at that time. On the
Yeah.
other hand, she was showing
just-
at the
right.
Cleveland Center for Contemporary Art. And, this is one. Whoa!
Yeah, I get that one.
Sorry, thank you. Whoops. Well, so much for the Anna. Oh, God.
I have there's sound effect for what just happened here. Oh. Well, you ruined that one,
is
Doug. It's my sound machine.
Damn.
We have little sounds there for important things. So this one here. Oh, you were trying to tell me about this painting?
Never mind that one, but this is a study of related to the big painting I did at the same time in 2015 of my dad, who died unexpectedly and suddenly at the age of 63, which is somewhat younger than I am now.
Wow.
And so it's called Sleep and Death. And here he is taking a nap, which is how he died. He just day after Thanksgiving in 1980.
Wow.
It's kind of almost a religious figure here. A little bit of that kind of.
Right. You have a lot of religious iconography in your work, huh? Don't you?
I do. This is my daughter and her husband and my grandson Vito. I'm still working on this one.
Vito, Italian name.
Vito, yes. Masha is my son-in-law's name, so they're an Italian group.
Nice.
In part, at least. And this is an Eric Rippert that I adore.
Let me get a better view of that.
He and I traded work recently on that. I was lucky enough to end up with that.
I love it. Of course, I'm getting a lot of reflections with the glass. I see.
Yeah,
it's a new composition I'm creating. I got glass windows in it and in my face.
Even that kind of works with it.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, look at this.
This I'm working on.
This is what one you're working on now?
Yep, it's getting there.
I love it. So your return now. You did a earlier series when you were a long time. In fact, the first time I discovered you was back in the '80s at William Busta Gallery.
Right.
You had huge, big paintings. They were all done with what, tar? And tell us about those paintings. It was an erotic show. I remember it was very.
That was the early '90s, in '93, I guess, what that show was, and and the tar ones were actually a little bit later. The ones where I really got into it were '94 or '95. So they weren't in that show. But there were some big ones that had a small amount of asphalt and worked into the background and just ordinary roof tar.
Those were great. I own one of those paintings, by the way. You know that?
Well, you have.
I bought it from you. I have 3 of your artworks.
I'm not sure what all you've got.
I have one of I don't know the titles of them, but one is a bondage woman, kind of her arms are up like this, sideways.
Right.
I have that one. That's
and one from that time.
From that time, yeah, I love that one. Then I have a newer one. It's the woman has like a white turban-y looking above her head.
Yeah.
That one. And then I have one you probably don't even know that I have. I bought it at a...
that one is called Sunblock, by the way.
Sunblock, that second one.
Her face is pale, her body is kind of orange. And
good to know.
It's kind of a joke, but not the painting, but the title.
You know what's kind of funny is that painting I have hanging in my studio, and the way the light hits it, I have to move the painting because what happens is it creates a horizontal line, a shadow above and light below.
That probably works very well.
Well, it's like but it makes it a different composition and it's not yours. So it's but it disturbs me.
Color eventually too, I suppose.
You're right. Maybe I should move that. I was going to ask you. The other piece that I have of yours, you probably don't know. It's the oddest thing that you. But you know, at first I thought this doesn't look like something Doug would do, but. It's a print of the Wizard of Oz.
Okay, that's so funny you have that.
I have that.
It's just one of the random things that I ended up in an auction at some point.
Yeah, I bought it at a little art auction somewhere. I forgot where,
but it's in support of some organization locally, I would guess.
Right.
I don't remember which one. But
I have that hanging at home. It's in our wall. It's got a little tin. I think it's the lion and
the Tin Man. And whoever else, the straw guy,
And I always look at it, and it's kind of interesting the way you drew them. It looks very much like the Wizard of Oz, but but definitely done by Doug Utter. You know what I mean? It's
just,
like,
yeah, it's
yeah.
a monoprint, like, one of those they're like paintings on glass that you transfer to paper, basically. It's a print,
Right.
but there's only one of it, and
Oh, there's only one print made from that?
yeah.
Oh, so I have an original print of
You
that.
got it, yeah.
Wow.
It's as original as any painting.
I did good at that auction, huh?
Yeah. You can't really price those because people just feel like they're prints and they won't pay any more than.
Right. So but it's still as original as could be. Oh, look at that.
That is Reverend Albert's daughter, Bonita. It's not a very good portrait of her. She's a beautiful woman, but this is just, I decided it was done recently. So
I love it.
To people,
Great composition again. Look at that. Look at the
at
division, that orange with the black shapes and all that. I love your composition.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It works for me. This is my daughter standing in.
Oh my gosh! Look at that.
Near Morro Rock, and that whatever that California town is, up from L.A. About 100 miles or so. 150, halfway to San Francisco. And there's this bunt cake shaped rock out in the water that's just the damnedest thing. And we went for a visit once together. She lives out there.
I see a resemblance of her to you.
She, they say she looks like I used to look.
You have a great. I mean, that's done very simply the way you painted the portrait, but it still it looks like an udder. You know what I'm saying? It has your. You have a nice way of fuzzy catching a portrait.
Thank you. I like this one. I'm not really sure it's done.
Yeah, I love it.
Hard to say.
I love the way your color, the way you have it. It's a very gray painting, except for two colors to bring out.
Yeah, it's very monochromatic. And for a while, one of the reasons I wasn't sure it was done is I thought I might want to bring more color into it, and yet
I don't know. There's something cool about that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like I'm feeling it. I like that. Just all gray. It's very makes it real contemporary, doesn't it? Sort of that.
I made the car yellow for a while, but I think white is probably better. It was white to begin with. This is one I'm working on, which has to do with the year when the kids were born. My daughter is the year of the ox, and Christopher's the year of the rat, and my ex is the year of the rooster, she likes crows, so
that's interesting.
Become more of a crow at this point.
So yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about your work. 'Cause there's a lot of meaning behind a lot of these.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Now
this one looks.
That's one of the Dayglow paintings.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. You know what I was gonna say.
I just did another one, which is going to be in this year's show.
You know what's really funny is my comment I was going to make before you said Dayglow paintings was these colors seem different than you usually use. I see.
Oddly enough, yes.
Oddly enough, you use Dayglow paint. Yeah, but they work. Boy, look at those.
And under black light, they have a real an ominous glow that I like with my images anyway. They tend to be a little ominous looking.
It's kind of interesting when you stack them. There's almost a cool composition of the two combined.
And this is a scene at the corner of I guess Coit and St. Clair, or down from Coit just a little bit. So it's off of St. Clair, and there's deer wandering along. And
they found the city. Those are city deer.
It's funny how many I have deer like every day wandering around my house. It's
yeah, we're definitely crowding them out of the woods. There's probably,
it's not what you would expect.
Yeah. How interesting. I wonder what this world's going to be like in about 50 years from now.
This is a drawing Nikki Woods did for one of her paintings that was shown at Hedge Gallery.
Wow, look at that. Huh, that is interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
And below is one of yours, blocked by a couple of books.
It's a little study of my parents, again, sitting on the yellow couch.
Wow.
The house I grew up in. So based on a Polaroid from the 60s. It's kind of it's a memory painting, but it's about something, about television. This is a study for enunciation. There's this kind of halo-like aerial and this there's the sense that they're watching something and it's being it's almost like an alien transmission sort of idea, but it's also like an update of a traditional religious painting of the Annunciation when tidings were brought to Mary of the I'm not religious, but I'm steeped in biblical stories and lore from wide reading on the subject, and I've always been very interested in it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of rich stories that are created.
To the history of Western painting. So much great painting has been done that happened to be about those things and that explored the way human beings relate to each other through, as sort of on an archetypal level, but also on a human level. And to get my own family into that mix was one of my goals in the 80s as I began to, change and do the things that I still do today.
Wow. Interesting. Oh, here's another room full of treasures. Look at all this. Wow. Oh, look. Now that is an easel.
That's a well-used easel. It's not as messy as some.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Francis Bacon always had a great studio to look, didn't he?
His was my model.
Yeah.
If I could be that messy, I'd just die tomorrow.
I know. Look at that. Look at these. This is great. Wow. So these are some prints here? Or?
These are just, pictures of
your work? Wow,
yeah, that's the big one that's down at the Worthington Yards as part of the Dowline Group's collection. Wow. Here's one that is in a private collection somewhere. It's just a little painting.
These are gorgeous.
So
these are some on the walls.
Some on the walls. And
by the way, I have an interesting question for you. So I went to Kent State University at one point.
You did, I know.
And I studied from an illustration teacher, and of all things, his name was Doug Unger.
I've met Doug Unger.
Have you met him?
Just briefly. I've never got to know him. But
yeah.
He's a good painter.
He's a very good painter, isn't he?
Sort of a realist landscape painter, or more
realist. Yeah. But he had great compositions.
And was superbly done.
He was
much beloved teacher. I'm frequently mistaken for him. People come up to me and say, "I was your student at Kent."
Right.
And while I did teach there for a minute, usually they're thinking of Doug Unger. And
funny thing is I ask people if they ever heard of. You'll like this. Have you ever heard of Doug Unger? Oh yeah. He's a great Cleveland artist, and of course they're referring to you.
I prefer it that way around. Either way, well, I'm sure he gets the same thing, and it probably pisses him off.
Yeah.
I can't help that.
Yes.
Here's a portrait I did of myself. It really is going to be hard to.
Oh, this one here. Let's see. Yeah, we got a little reflection there. Look at that.
Let's say I was 11. It's probably 10 and a half. It's 1961. So.
You did that when you were 10 and a half?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So.
I'm trying to see.
We're too far off with the other one. It's just that we have to go back to 1961 for this.
Wow, that's incredible. Good. Boy, you were. How old were you when you did that? Did you?
I was basically 11.
You had a great sense of color back then. You weren't
until December.
You weren't painted with. You didn't just use like two out of the paint out of the tube paints. You mixed colors and you had the mutedness in there.
Well, I was looking at other
masters'
people's paintings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is based on a Van Gogh self-portrait, one of the ones he did in Paris that I thought was the best at the time, and I still like it. So it's it's not so close to it that it looks like a ripoff, but it's definitely the same sort of greenish yellowish background. And this blue garment I'm wearing, that's what I wore to paint, and I thought I was a little Van Gogh.
That's cool. Well, you were.
I did my best.
Yeah, except you have both ears.
I managed to hold on to them.
Yeah.
Not working too well. But.
Wow, this is incredible.
Let's see what else we got.
Yeah, I'm just following you around. You can just point out. Oh, look back here. Oh, this looks like from the group that paintings that I have one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I just love these.
This one is a little later in the decade, so it was I got better at it in a way by the time I did this one. I got to a point where I felt it was a little bit over-determined, and I stopped working with these materials. I was a little bit better at it than I wanted to be, because I like accidents to happen with these things that I can work with, and if I know what I'm doing and do it too precisely and predictably, then it's just not doing what I wanted to do.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because
sure
you have
you do.
I mean, these, like this here, this white.
Well,
That's
you've
just gorgeous.
grown into, from being a very good realist painter, you've grown into somebody who's basically a conceptualist. At least I think of you.
I'm
that
all
way.
over the board.
You're a lot of different things, and you like to keep it interesting. Is where I'm going with this, and I try to find a way to keep it interesting within the bounds of the paint, because I also love to paint. It's
Yeah, my problem is I'm one of those. Grass is always greener on the other side. So when I'm doing painting, I look at someone else doing sculpture, and I'm going, oh my God, I got to go do sculpture, because I get excited by it. I love all these things. If I were in an Italian restaurant and I saw somebody eating Indian food across the street, I'd be going, oh my gosh, we should have went to the Indian restaurant.
I like that description, but I think you end up doing some very remarkable things.
Yeah, the trouble with me is I tend to I spread myself thin a little bit, and I don't delve into something enough.
Yeah.
And that's I'm working on getting away from that. And now I'm into music a little bit. I'm studying drums.
What studying? What?
Drums, playing
Oh, really?
drum sets. Yeah,
Oh, shit.
I've never played music in all my life.
I can picture you being a crazy drummer.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna have you'll have.
But it's work, and I'm not good at it. It's work, but
incredible exercise. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've known some drummers, and they have arms on them.
yeah. Well, but work meaning just mentally. It's
okay.
it's not just banging, making drums. Just it's felt the rhythm and
course
this,
that's right.
and it's a very much a language like painting and speaking. You have a divided amount of time. You have these measures, and in there you can do interesting things. So just like you have a square format here, that measures maybe
Right.
3.5 feet by 3 feet.
Something like that.
And you have to make something interesting within those parameters, because
Right.
that's the parameters you've chosen.
That's your beginning point.
So,
right.
and music is kind of like that too. So, and
Absolutely.
writing is maybe. Speaking of writing, I heard that you sometimes write.
I've been known to pick up a pen to pick
So
up
you're a writer also.
a keyboard. Actually,
Of course we know that you're a writer. We've
yeah.
read your articles and your.
It's been very good for me too. I started doing that when I was about 40, so I guess I've been doing it for close to 30 years and publishing articles around here in town and elsewhere around the country, and a few different publications. And I learned so much about the art that I'm writing about as I go. So I'm not being a critic so much as being somebody who's learning about the art and comparing it to the things that I do know, and kind of measuring it against what I understand, and trying to get a handle on new things, and also present it to people, to the reader, in a way that so that the description it does justice to the work that I'm writing about. I try to write about things I like, because I don't like much really, so I don't write all that much. But it's I've written a few kind of critical, the sort of criticism that you think of when you're like almost nasty sort of at least highly negative critic, which I regretted immensely, because it's just like there's always another point of view about any work of art, and people don't do this just to get on your nerves or to take advantage of the market or something. Every artist I've ever met or known is entirely sincere, and you kind of have to work with that. It's not right to not work with that. So it's not weak to not make a judgment. It can be strong to decide that that's out of bounds and it's not moral.
It's kind of, when you mention that, something I have a little bit of a philosophy that I believe in. So I believe that our system of art is man-made. It's a human invention.
Sure.
The idea of stretching a canvas and putting colors on it and then hanging on a wall.
Very random.
So it's a random. Art is so vast that it's actually very random that we chose that to represent art, or a pedestal with a sculpture on it. But I believe that actually, what people say, what is art? And I believe, okay, I'm going to tell you what I believe art is, and then what good art is. And I think it's real easy. Art is choice that is what makes us human. Oh, the coffee. So I didn't come here to talk to you. I came here for the coffee.
Yeah,
but
we forgot about the important thing.
Yes. But anyway, so our art, I believe as human beings, we all make choices, aesthetic choices that aren't right or wrong. Oh, look at that cup.
This is a work of art.
Wow.
George Bose.
Wow, look at that.
Superb.
That is gorgeous. Are you going to pour me a cup with that?
Actually, we're going to have to warm this up.
Oh, cool. That's all right. Good. So, as much as when you choose what to wear every morning, when you say I'm going to wear a black shirt with blue pants, you're making color choices or style choices or whatever it is, just
right.
like someone, or when you say where am I going to put, what color cabinets do I want in my kitchen, or what rug do I want to put on the kitchen floor. These are all choices that everybody makes every day.
Right.
And these are aesthetic choices, just like when you say, I'm going to make this area orange in one of my paintings, right, and I want black next to it. There's no right or wrong. So to criticize that would be a little bit like, wait a minute.
It's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy. And so now you're going to, I'm going to ask, okay, or I'm going to answer my own belief of what makes art good art and not good art. Since we're all artists as human beings, why are there good ones and not good ones? So here's my answer to that. A good artist is made by having a passion for something, whatever it may be. If a person goes shopping for clothes, and that's their passion, picking out clothes at the Beechwood Mall of all things, and they get good at it and fashionable, they're learning about styles and colors and this and that, and they become very good at it. And if you wanted to choose clothes, you might even confer with them. If someone paints with paint and they do figures and they do what you love to do, and you do because you love it, you do it a lot, you become very good at it, and that's what makes you good artist. Just like a chef, he loves to cook, and he loves to use these kind of seasonings, and he gets sensitive to it. You have to have sensitivity, but sensitivity isn't just born with. You develop sensitivity.
That's part of my own philosophy is the way in which the artists and people in general working with anything, whether you could be a carpenter, you could be a business person, but you're working with the stuff you know, and as time goes by, you get so you know it better than anybody else, or at least you know it in your own way that works for you, and you're expressing all kinds of, as you say, the passion is maybe the meat of the matter, and it's terribly important to in that way, like be into the things you're doing. It's like an extension of your own being into the world. It's a way of living more fully, I think, and that certainly is. I think we're in complete agreement on
Right. A person who loves wine. We could each of us taste a Cabernet. Go, it tastes the same. Mm-hmm. But somebody who's become sensitive to it because they love wine, they can tell the difference. This one's a little more smoky, or this one's this and that, and they're sensitive to it, and they become their art is to choosing good wine.
Indeed.
Yeah, and
then there are those who love it too much.
Right, there are those too. I just had another thought and I lost it. And writing. The same thing. You find your palette
Absolutely.
Is your words, right? Your palette of paint is basically your word, the English language.
And there are ways away, but
And everybody has a different style. They use different kinds of words, different kinds of sentences, long sentences, short sentences, punctuation, different punctuation.
And you need to keep growing in it in order for it to be interesting and to even not be, just sort of a different version of the thing you wrote yesterday or the last week. To find a way to bring a new approach to a new thing,
right?
It's kind of I guess that's also important in visual art. It's in fact very important. discovery of a new line, as William Carlos Williams put it in the poem Patterson. It's, you got to find a new line to have a new mind, and part of it is this growth thing, and this idea of extending the self is to develop a new mind, a new way of looking at the world.
Right.
It's, so you're constantly doing that. That's what being an artist really is, I think. This renewal.
Yes. Actually, in a way, you know what? I saw someone somewhere written that we're like a prism ourselves, and the light comes into us. That would be everything that we see and experience, and then as artists, we reflect it out in a different way,
I like that.
and in many different colors. We reflect it, and every prism has a different angle and a different way of seeing things and a different way of capturing what is around them.
Absolutely.
So we're all unique in that way.
I think, to set art aside is something that's different from what ordinary people do is probably very artificial and not a good idea, because we all have something going on in our lives that we keep showing up for and trying to do better, and those of us who are most of the people I know in my life aren't artists and are really admirable and interesting human beings, and it's so it's not about art. It's about this newness and this attempt to be more real in the world.
See, now I'd have to argue with you on that when the sentence you said that most people aren't artists, and I believe me, I understand what you meant.
I
by
mean,
that.
I just know a
Yeah,
lot of
I
people.
mean, they
who
don't
are artists,
call themselves artists and make paint on canvas.
but they are artists.
But they are artists because they're human. Is my stance on that.
I do agree
Right.
with that.
But I didn't mean that to tell you
No,
you're wrong
no,
on that.
it's
But
not a.
because we use the word artist to represent people who make a living at it, or a habit of every day putting things in galleries and this and that. Where I like to I always like to say that's maybe an oversimplified version of artist. But anyway, I like the idea. I like to use the word creative more than artist.
Creative certainly says more. Than
And creative, though, we don't live in a bubble, and create is sort of that prism idea that we take in what we've seen, and that's why everybody's influenced in some way, and then we create from that new things that never existed.
Trying to that's why I guess it's the word creative is used, because but it's interesting to try to define that word too. It's not like we're making something from nothing. It's like we're recombining things in ways that
By the way, for all those who tuned in late, we're talking with Douglas Max Utter. Very, very
all three of
wonderful painter. We're getting up close and personal with him. In fact, you probably have seen his work around Cleveland and many other places, and his writing. But we're here to get up close.
Hello.
There he is.
Oh my God.
Douglas Max Utter. I call him Doug.
That was traumatic.
He's
for
utterly
somebody,
amazing.
I'm
Don't you hate that?
Utterly amazing.
Utterly amazing. You
so
throw up every time. So you don't even hear
right
it.
off my back.
Yeah. You probably hate it when they refer to cow udders, because those are DDERs, aren't they?
That we find unforgivable. That's a whole
I will
nother
not
story.
call you a cow udder.
Although nothing wrong with
Yeah.
cows. Cows are good.
Cows are good. God, this is wonderful. So this nice old house. Oh, I have a quick question. Do you have anything that you say in your mind is painting and drawing? I'm sorry, painting and writing.
Yeah.
Are they? Is there something in there that they have in common with you, or not necessarily? You're very separate thinking when you do either one or the other, or is there something in common? Just for a kick of a question.
I think the answer is that they're very different.
They're very different, yeah.
It's, I do try to create parallels, I think, between them, and I think if there's a kind of writing that parallels painting, it would be poetry, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Right.
Because of the way that images overlap and bleed into each other, and they depend on their effectiveness. Poems, images a poem depends on its images and on doing language to reach beyond itself in the same way that painting reaches beyond the color and reaches beyond the line and reaches beyond the brush or whatever you're using to the thing itself. and you know that can happen in many different ways. It can happen in a cubist way. It can happen in a you know with an etching line. It can happen in probably an infinite number of ways, and the same with language.
Right. Wow.
In poetry, at least.
Huh. Wow, this is great. I'm just peeking around your house here because it's so interesting. It's fun to see an artist how they live. How the little.
This house was.
It's an old house.
I've lived here about 11 years. It's from 1924. It was built, and I own it these days. I bought it for 10 years, and.
So my father's was born in 1925. Well, so this is a year older than my father.
It is. It's.
My father's still alive. He's 96 now.
How's he doing?
He's doing okay. He has a girlfriend.
Well, then he's doing better than me.
That's
funny.
It's amazing, isn't it?
That's
great.
Good
Yeah.
for him, you know.
Wow. So she's 90.
Well, she's doing well too.
She's doing well too. Yeah.
I'm glad that there's life after 90.
There's life after 90.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll hang in there after all.
Yeah. My main concentration is having quality of years. Not necessarily length. I don't need to live into my 90s. I'd rather.
Right, it's whatever, and you know.
I just want to enjoy each day and have fun, and
exactly,
and just like get the richness of life around me.
One does learn things, but you also forget a lot. So it's.
I'm sort of like a kid in a candy store when it comes to life. I like so many different things. I appreciate things that a lot of people are more focused. And that's okay too. They're like so passionate about what they do that's all they do, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then there's others who are sort of like I call them well-rounded or jack of all trades sometimes, and I'm a little bit of that. I'm trying to be a drummer and a painter and a sculptor and abstract and realistic painting, and I love it all. And each time I go to one, I'm looking back at the other one, so I jump back and do some of that.
No, I think it's wonderful you do that. I do that maybe in different ways in terms of my reading and what I watch and the other things I do. But I'm always excited by what life is bringing into my ken. You know, I like whether I just finished a book by that's a new novel by Haruki Murakami called Killing Commendatore, which is it's a tome. It's like 681 pages.
Wow!
I read every one of them, and it's an interesting book, very much like some of his other books, but he's exploring the same themes and from different points of view and angles over the years. It's maybe the 10th book of his I've read, and he's. Do you know him?
No.
So there's things like that
I'll have to look into that one.
That I become aware of and do, and then there's Netflix. I mean,
right?
Good God, man, there's binging, and I'm all for it. So.
Are you a scheduled person? Do you paint like you say? I'm going to the studio from 10 o'clock until 3 o'clock, or then I do this, and then I read in the evening? No, you just...
I really go with the flow. Which,
you go with the flow.
Sometimes works for me, and sometimes less so.
Less so, right. You're not really a morning person, I think.
Not a well-organized, highly scheduled person in any way, as you might guess, looking at my somewhat,
I use the cutting board as a coffee maker holder. That's okay. It's a creative use of a cutting board.
It seems like a thing I just am unable to quit doing.
Kitchen table as a keyboard, as a computer table.
Well, sure.
Why not? Nothing wrong with that.
This is my headquarters here.
Yeah, this is a nice table. Look at that. Is that curly maple?
Yes, it is.
Or tiger maple, one of those kind of tiger. Wow.
Some guy made it out on. It was up from a house sale on Fairmont up past 306 back 30 years ago. And
you've had this table was made 30 years ago.
No, I bought it 30 years ago.
Right.
It was probably made back in the 20s.
Is that what that looks like there? That's where somebody laid their cigarette down and it burned along the table.
Probably.
Wow, that's cool. That adds some character to it, doesn't it?
I smoked until,
Oh, so it could have been you that did it.
14 years ago, so it's probably dates before that. But
It's funny, if you gave me that table and asked me, do I want to get rid of that cigarette burn, I would never get rid of it. I would keep that there.
It's precious.
It's
Mark making can take all different kinds of forms.
Right, and accidental. Actually, I did a series of abstract works that was, I called it the Eye of God series. It was done. It was using the Fibonacci sequence.
Oh yeah,
so
of
I did
course.
those.
I've seen these,
And you know how that whole series started? I had a drop cloth on the ground, and I was spray painting with black spray paint, electrical pipes and plugs and this and that. I was making them black.
Right.
And when after I was all done, the piece of canvas was gorgeous. Just accidental spray paint and patterns on things.
Sure. I've had that happen. I know exactly what you mean.
So then what happened was I kept the drop cloth. I didn't throw it out.
Mm-hmm.
I just rolled it up. I kept it for 10 years. And then I was talking with a writer. I don't remember his name, but he came into my gallery at the time. And I somehow got on the subject about I found this canvas and this canvas that I accidentally spray painted all over, and I love the look of it. I said, he says, well, why don't you put it on a stretcher and hang it up? And I said, it's just, it's accidental spray paint. He says, well, if you stretch it and put it up, then it's yours.
That makes it, yeah.
It made sense to me. That's if Duchamp hung a urinal on the wall, it became his, and it sure is, isn't it?
No, I follow that reasoning, and absolutely.
Right. If I took your shoe and decided that your shoe looks good here on that wall, that would be my use of your shoe, and you'd be mad at me because you'd be one cold foot.
This is basically a Dadaist approach to defining art, but what is art and what isn't?
Right.
But it's an intervention of a kind from that point of view,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also a reestablishment of context. And so you take something and you put it in a museum, and it's a fucking object in a museum.
Right.
So,
but sometimes the aesthetic of it could even be part of the.
And well, it changes the way you see it.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the art takes place. It's like suddenly your vision of this object, which may be completely accidental or just commercial, is transformed, and you see it anew. And that is exciting. It's like it's not. You can take it as a critique of the artificiality of museum culture, or you can take it as a thing that's transformative. And really, context is what is making the objects what they are. That's making them into art.
I'm with you all the way.
By saying they're art, you then look at them differently, and it's the looking that's doing it.
We'll go back to the shoe example. If I took your shoe and went into the Cleveland Museum of Art and took a large painting by Rubens, mm-hmm. let's say, and next to Rubens was a Da Vinci, let's say, and I hung the shoe on the wall between them as a piece of art, people would see that shoe in a much different way Indeed. Than they would on your foot or in the store where it was bought. They go,
it would spark all kinds of trains of thought that otherwise it wouldn't have.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be talked about.
It's basically a different object at that point.
And by the placement of it in the museum is, that's what Dada did with the, what Duchamp did with the urinal. He did exactly that.
Right.
And that's interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah. And it is crucial to, even what I do, even these paintings are transformed by being in a gallery, first they're in a studio, and the fact that they're conceived of to begin with as works of art enters in. But it's not the only thing that happens to them, and they end up often in people's homes or on museum walls on rare occasions, and it's and that changes them again. I find it's like, wow, this never looked so good or it never looked so bad, but it's
right.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I have another question to ask you, and this is a thought that I always have. Art goes in trends. We had the pop art era, or the surrealism era, or the all these different isms always had time spans to them. So I question, and the artists that follow those trends seem to get noticed because they're on top of the
Well,
trends.
it's easy to talk about them. Basically, yeah.
Right. Sometimes I find that I have a problem with that, in that actually the true creative people might be going against what's popular.
Well, that's historically you can almost count on that being the case. It's whatever is popular now is almost certainly not going to be regarded as highly as something that's not popular now in the future, and that's we don't even know what it is. It may be so obscure that nobody's seen it.
Right.
So the great artists of the present, some of them at least, are bound to be unknown at present. That's almost so. Contextualization is tricky. It's like, it's coming down the pike, and you don't know what really is going. The way that the things that people are going to need to see and choose to see, and the way that some writers or some curators are going to put it together in the future, and which will catch on.
I also think that art trends happen from a good rebellion. Someone who says, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm doing this, and if it's a good one, it's strong. Yeah, right.
And of course that makes them, briefly or for
Brief
a long time,
outcasts.
Exactly.
Right, they're not accepted, and then but if they're good or they hit home, they got a home run there. They all of a sudden
and it's
catch
hard
on.
to see which is which. It's
Right.
times.
Right.
Very often, I think.
It probably has a lot to do. Also, art, of course, reflects our society and our era and what we're doing at the time. So,
right, we're used to thinking of art as the things that we're used to thinking of, and so that's you run up against that limit when you're making something, and even in yourself, you need to sort of challenge yourself and say, am I doing this just because this is the way I've done it, or what? And often that's the case.
by the way, I'm enjoying a great cup of coffee. Who did this mug, did you say?
That is George Bose, who's a great ceramicist who lived here for many years and is now, I think, in Florida.
That's a beautiful mug, and I think look you're using a plain mug. What a host you are! Look at that. Doug's using the plain mug, and he gave me that to use.
Yeah,
for my
I
coffee
thought
today.
just to show that off. It's very light. It's porcelain, and it's the formally is incredible. It's a real masterpiece of a cup in my.
Oh my gosh, I'm almost nervous to now hold
Lucky
it,
to
because
have
what
it.
if I drop? What if?
You be careful.
Yeah, I'll try to be careful with that. I won't. Oh, wrong button.
Uh-oh.
I was doing the. Where's my smash glass button? I just used it earlier. Oh, there it is.
What is that? Oh, it's a sort of a.
Oh, I dropped your mug, Doug.
Uh-oh. Oh, my God. No, get out.
So I was shopping for Christmas presents for my grandkids, and this was in a store at the counter, and I thought, oh my God, this thing's fantastic. I use it on all my.
It's a work of art in itself.
I mean, what I should have done is, here, we'll start this whole podcast thing over again. Watch. And now we're going to meet a well-known, wonderful artist. Douglas Max Utter!
Cheers.
By the way, don't let me leave. As you all know, I wear my Up t-shirts.
Oh.
With my arrow. That's my positive arrow. The drips represent paint.
Here we are. I
And
didn't see it
the
earlier.
arrow represents positive things. So
I remember this. Of
yes.
course,
So
yes,
I
I've
have,
seen
and
this
I know that
before.
you wear black. So I have in my car. I forgot to bring it out. I'll get it out. A black Up T-shirt for you.
Excellent. Well then, that's exactly what I would.
Black
I
with a
would promise
dark brown arrow.
I'll wear it.
Yeah.
I
So
may wear it under something black or over something black.
yes, you
but
can wear it over your coat, and it'll look real odd,
if,
but
if
cool.
it's big enough, I'll do that.
Well, you could stretch it.
I probably will stretch it. Eating too many croissants.
Yeah.
Would you care for a croissant?
No, I'm good. I'm good. No, just coffee's good. I'm actually trying to lose a couple pounds myself, and they're made with butter.
You're wise.
So, is there anything more to look at in the house? Do you want to, before we sign off? Do you
Want
want
to
to?
take a little brief?
Yeah, let's take a
tour
little walk around. Let's go look at the. What we'll do is we'll look at. We'll inspect little corners and things to see if you've dusted the floor well, or that kind of thing. We'll look for flaws.
Do the white glove test.
The white glove test, yes.
Why don't you proceed ahead of me?
I'll go upstairs.
Here.
Wow. Ahead of you. Oh, look at all these. Look at that. Oh my gosh, this is like a museum up here.
Yeah, there's a lot
Look
of
at this.
paintings just lying around.
Wow, look. Oh my gosh, look at the reds on that.
Amy Casey, her that I did a long
Oh, look at that.
About the same time she did that painting, actually. So
I love that.
2002.
That's great. Look at this. Wow. Now here's some of with the crackling effect that you use.
Yeah, that's kind of these are made by pouring white paint on like ceiling paint on a canvas and letting it dry and wrinkle up and crack and then working on top of it.
Nice. This looks like a print here?
Yep, that's one of my mono prints, one of the early ones from the late 80s, I think.
Wow. Look at those.
This is another one I did when I was 11.
Yeah, that looks like the same same age as the other one we saw.
It's my mother with a teapot, an orange cup. Wow. Very modernist little cup there. I remember the green sweater she was wearing. So that's not based on any other painting, but it certainly has an impressionist sort of head.
Definitely impressionist more than you do now. Yeah.
This is my bedroom.
Oh, look at that. We're really getting up close and personal. Look at this. Wow, look at the paintings. Look at how you have, this is gorgeous. What a great, great space. Look at that. Look at all the books, more books.
Books and paintings.
Books and paintings.
Random clothing.
And cool things that you've collected.
Old rugs, the usual setup, in fact.
I love it, man. What a great house this is.
That's another one. That from 1962.
The tree?
That is a shed in the little town called Coyne, Iowa, where my parents grew up. I painted it standing out in the field next to the local elementary school, and a bunch of kids were helping me. And I was like 11, mind you, so they were like 10 or something. And
You were a great painter back then. Look at oh my gosh, this is wonderful. Look at that.
There's a little something.
A little gem.
Carrying out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. All kinds of
Now what's
things.
this? What do we have over here? This one here, is that like a that painting behind?
That's Amy. Another Amy painting as
Wow, look at that.
as Ganesh.
Incredible. A Ganesh from Indonesia type thing, huh?
Exactly. And those are three of my son when he was younger, a little. Wow. And that's my mom. I don't know if you can really
These are
turn on a light, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, there we go. No, it was actually capturing them good, but that's good. It's incredible. Look at these.
And
Boy, if you ever had to move, you'd be in trouble, wouldn't you?
you know, I moved all this 10 years ago, and it was
A project.
Jesus, yeah. It was
Like you'll go,
really
I'll never do
hard.
this again, and
I
then
call it my every mote of dust move, and I like every damn screw in the house. I got in the truck and got over here. It took months.
and then there's things when you have things like this. I'm sort of a collector also. What happens is you lose something.
Yeah.
And you go, oh my gosh, it's lost, it's gone forever. And then 10 years later, you go, oh, look at it, it's here in the drawer.
Exactly. It's sort of the opposite of that person who throws everything away on TV.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah. I vacillate. Part of me wants to be the person that throws it all away and doesn't own things because I feel like I'd be
I
lighter.
have no desire to be that person.
Right? No. Look, I mean, look at all the books.
My ambition is to become a hoarder eventually.
Yeah. Well, you're
making it, I think.
you're well on your way.
Well on my
See,
way.
you wanted it bad enough, and look, look at these. These are gorgeous.
Yeah, those are recent, and this is one from New York in the 70s when I was living there.
This is you painted this?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wait, now that doesn't
Very
to me
typical of the time.
at the time
One of
in the
best.
70s.
Yeah, 76 or 7.
Wait, that's so different than of your work than I know. That's before I knew you or ever met you or heard of you.
Yeah, I was 26.
Wow. Are you interested? You read Stephen King? Or not that
I like
much?
Stephen
Yeah,
King,
I like
sure.
Stephen.
Yeah.
I read a book on his Stephen King on writing.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting.
That's a very good book. He
He actually writes in a totally. If I were writing or what I do write, I have to do it much different than he does. He starts with something and lets it kind of open-ended and discovers the ending as he goes.
That's a lot of Dickens wrote that way. You know?
Yeah.
Amazingly, you wouldn't think so.
Right. I have to have a beginning and an end, and then I fill it.
I tend to write that way myself when I'm trying to write fiction, which I do. But
Yeah, I'm trying to write. I'm writing fiction now too.
it might be we should do it his way. I don't know.
I tried it his way once, and I ended up like it just kept going on and on with no direction. But I guess painting is that way. You make a mark on the canvas, and you don't know where it's going to go sometimes, and then you just react. Look at this. Look at the books.
A few more books in here.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible.
That is my mom as a little baby
I'm
and my
gonna
dad.
come around here.
Wow.
This is incredible.
Books, yeah. I was interested in, when I was in college, I was studying Greek and Latin and literature. The languages I learned over time. I've pretty much forgotten everything I ever knew, but so some of these are that, and others are just literature that I've always been interested in. And anthropology and psychology was kind of an obsession during those years too. But so these are kind of books that I don't get much play anymore.
So if I had to make a blanket statement about you, I would say Douglas MacArthur is a great artist that some say is well read. Well read.
or if he doesn't read it, then
He either reads a lot or he uses
he
these.
has a long list of things he wants to read.
Well, actually, what happened is Douglas doesn't read at all. He just had bad wallpaper, so he decided to
Right.
wallpaper his house with books.
Yeah, these are actually art objects.
Yeah, you're right. This is just a texture. Actually, these aren't even real books. This is three-dimensional
No idea what's
wallpaper.
in them, but I like the way they look.
It's incredible. And is there any organization to all these books, or not really?
There's some.
Like, if you had to find a book, would you be able to find it?
Maybe.
Maybe. Or we're even going. Oh my gosh, we're going.
I'm going to take you up to the attic.
Oh, this is even getting better.
That'll teach you.
Oh my gosh, the attic. Wow.
It's a little cold up here. The heat is
That's right. You know what? This is welcome because I'm wearing this fireman's jacket because I came in here with my. You're on fire, and boy, you are on fire. Wow, look at this.
There's a bunch of old stuff, a little more disorganized than usual.
I would have never dreamed that all this was here in this house.
There's a lot of stuff in this house, and it's actually quite big. I'd like to live up here, but I haven't got it together yet. But I love this space.
Oh my gosh, you could spend just going through paintings. You could spend days in here just flipping paintings of all your work.
Yeah, I've got most things that I haven't sold. Although there's a bunch down in the studio where we'll go sometime, some other time.
This is incredible. I cannot believe how much work you have here. Look at all these paintings. Look at this. Because I'm in this little foyer that looks out on the street.
Yeah.
Look at here. There's a painting. I can't get too far back from it.
It's a gable.
Wow. Yeah, right. Look at
And
that.
that's part of a three-part work called The Life of the Moon. That it's on drywall, so it weighs a ton, and
Wow.
it's like a piece of 8-foot drywall cut in three. The other two pieces are here, and it's kind of it's a triptych.
Right.
I say
And you chose drywall because of the texture or because you had drywall?
both.
Both.
I mean, it kind of worked, and I was working with a roller and spray paint, so you know, it both of those things go on drywall really well, and it's so a nice surface for that.
Huh.
But it's too fragile to be practical and too heavy. You have to frame it carefully, and then you have to
Right.
treat it with kid gloves for the next 3 decades. Which
Right. Or more than 3
On the
decades
way.
if it's any good.
Yeah.
Wow. This is incredible. Just your work is just now. What this work doesn't look like.
That's a really early one from the mid '60s, I guess. It's not when I was a kid. I was exploring kind of expressionism and cubism.
Cubism. I was going to say, yeah.
So it was, you know, this was a much earlier one. I was looking at Picasso's Blue Period when I was 10 again. You know, one of that.
Wow. Look at that.
My mother with a broom.
And there's one of your earlier erotic show.
Yeah, that's one that I actually should go into the show at. Well, there's another one that's similar that I think that Hillary took off and is going to show in that exhibit in April.
Cool. Oh, so you have an exhibit coming up in April?
Yeah, it's going to be at Hedge Gallery. I think the third Friday in April will be the opening, and it's kind of a retrospective. It's called Falling from the Sky of Now, I think.
I love it.
And yeah.
Did you come up with that title?
I did. It's a line from one of my poems, which is why I should know what it is, but I believe that's the line. And it's toward the end of this.
Falling from the Sky of Now.
It's about remembering.
I love it.
Remembering things that you didn't experience, remembering other people's lives, and it's like you're looking down on a world that you don't really know, but you can see the form, and you can get an idea, you can apprehend the textures and relationships, and project your own thoughts and feelings into it, but you don't really know what happened. I was doing a bunch of work about how my grandfather died in a car accident in 1936, and so it has to do with that. And I know nothing about it except what a little bit I've been able to glean from other sources like letters. And my dad died when I was 30, and I never talked to him about this thing that happened to him when he was 18, when his dad was killed, and he was injured, and his mother and sister were injured quite badly, and the drunk driver smashed into their car on a trip near Kenosha, Wisconsin. And
I showed your work in my gallery many years ago, and didn't you do a series of paintings with the cars and the
and they were part of that
issue? Yeah, they were part of that.
That's when I was actually doing it back at that point. And
those were beautiful paintings. They had.
That'll be, there are all those little ones that are related to that one that you're remembering are going to be in the show also.
Cool. Wow. Well, everyone will have to go visit that show. What's the date of that show? Do you know?
Whatever the third Friday in April is.
Third Friday in April. Go see Douglas Mack's Utter show called, say that again?
Falling from the Sky of Now.
Falling from the Sky of Now. You got to go see that. Now, I'm going to peek back here for a second, just real quick, just to be Snoopy.
That one. There's Lilac around the corner. You may remember that.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Whoa, look at that painting.
That's from '94. That's this thing.
Here, I'm going to get back a little bit so I get a feeling of the size of that. That's probably about like 5.5 feet tall.
Yeah, it's about my height. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably 5'6", and I'm 5'7".
There you go. Yeah.
Used to be 5'8".
I used to be 6'5", and
Did you? Damn.
yeah, and now I'm only 6'4". Huh?
You shouldn't have jumped off that building.
Yeah, so my spine got compressed. We may be short in stature, but we're
funny.
We're funny. Exactly. Whoops.
There's that's Jesus.
Jesus, I was just gonna say that looks like Jesus. Jesus. What a painting.
Here's another one of these. So I'm wrong.
Oh my gosh, I love these.
Hillary's not going to show any of these at this rate. Never mind.
Because we're not supposed to. Oh, got it. Let's. We won't look anymore. We're gonna keep the surprise.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe that.
You didn't see those. Blank your screen at that moment.
This one I don't like. I don't know if it shows up at all, but it's called Death's Dateless Night.
Actually, it does show up good. It's
91, I think.
Wow.
90 or 91, and this is from 1963, the day Kennedy was shot.
Oh my gosh. You did that on that day he was
Yeah.
shot. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember that. I was in, I think, 3rd grade.
Yeah, I was in 7th grade. So,
Yeah. Something like that. I remember that day they had a silent moment in our class. It was during the day. Huh.
Yeah, it was. They sent us home from junior high school, Roxborough.
Wow. It's incredible.
All right.
So,
Well, there you have it.
We have been
That is
with
the complete
Douglas.
tour.
I would call it very incomplete because if we want to do a complete tour, we'd have to spend a couple months here just digging.
It would take a while to really.
But we don't want to do that. We might find
You might
who knows what
really
we'll find.
Tired of it by the end of that.
Yeah, we would never get tired of it. But your computer would die from overuse watching this.
This is my first oil painting.
That's your first oil painting.
1961, England, on a piece of masonite.
Love it. It's Amy Casey again. Wow, look at these. It just goes on forever. This one's beautiful. I love these colors. This green that you use with the black.
That's Dan Trenberg's and Terry Durst's furnace. They called it their furnace, or a unit that was in their living room in their house in Tremont where they lived.
Huh. I actually have a work of Terry Durst. So a construction that he did.
Yeah, I love his work.
Yeah. Wow, this is great. Well, and you got records and more books. Look at this.
Cleveland Art Prize. Hey.
Nice.
Bling.
Bling bling. Love it. Look at all this. This was a wonderful visit here. Well, there's looks like a newspaper article with your work in it.
Now, through this
A
and
lifetime represented.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Well,
okay.
I'm gonna go.
Well, it was
I'm
wonderful having
When
you.
I sign out, after this. I'm gonna go out to my car and get you your Up T-shirt. I got
Let's
you a
not
size
forget
extra
the T-shirt.
small, Sky. I like to wear them tight.
Why do I have this in my hand?
I know you're carrying something around, but it's nice.
I see. I just moved it.
You moved it and you had it. I do that. Why do I have this? Look at these beautiful rugs. So, anyway, this is the Zen of Naji morning show with Douglas Max Utter, who you gotta meet, gotta visit, gotta go look at his artwork.
It's a great pleasure.
Wonderful. Thank you for being a part of this show, and we'll see you soon.
All right.
All right, over and out. I'm gonna go get your T-shirt.
Farewell.